Hello, everyone. I am Aydogan Vatandas, the editor-in-chief of Politurco.com. Today, I am joined by Dr. Azly Rahman. He is a prolific writer, and he has been covering many different issues relating the international relations and politics. Today, I want to talk about the recent developments in Afghanistan. So, Taliban took over the country, but how strong, how dominant the Salafi interpretation of Islam, today represented by Taliban and some other different organizations in the world. So, Dr. Rahman, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vatandas, and I've been enjoying contributing to Politurco. I think it's an excellent, very research-based and engaging forum that you've been educating us about affairs, international affairs, and everything.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much, sir. Would you like to talk about a little bit yourself? Can you give us a little bit information about your career to our followers?
Yes, that's maybe it's a long story to cut it short for 1 minute. I was born in Malaysia, was born in Singapore, but then it was Malaysia, and grew up in Malaysia, and went to school in the United States since 1981, and my background is global education, and not just, but also other background would be from literature to international politics to communication studies and all. And I've been writing about the various issues as well as in outside of education as well. And this is my background. My interest has always been the study of emerging nations and ideology. So that is.
So, Dr. Rahman, what do you think about the influence of the Salafi interpretation of Islam in the Sunni world? And what we see right now in different countries is that Taliban takeover of the country is welcomed by several circles in different countries. For example, in Malaysia, there are groups supporting this, and also in Indonesia. So what I want to understand is that how influential, how strong is the Salafi interpretation of Islam in the Sunni world?
So very interesting, the question that requires universal and particularistic consideration. Number one is the universal aspect of it is the whole idea of Islam, the longingness to establish an Islamic state, for example, is a millenaristic idea and movement, and that cuts across time and space, and also all nations. So that's one big idea. But the particularistic part of it is that it takes on a cultural form. The whole idea is enculturalized. For example, in the development of the the lights off here. In the development of what we call in Afghanistan, it's culturally, some say would be a Deobandi. It's a very cultural idea of the Salafism, whereas in other places such as Somalia and also Sudan and other places would take the different form. But the widespreadness of it is there. It's been a concern for even people in the Islamic world. And as you know, that ideology is also it's contingent upon how pervasive ideology is being accepted and also embodied and used as a cultural practice. It depends on the socioeconomic level of the people accepting it. And poverty plays a very important role in how far ideologies go.
Right. So another question is that why do you think that the Sunni scholars in the Muslim world failed to distance themselves from that Salafi perspective of Islam, or do you think that they tried to create a distinction between the Sunni perspective of Islam and the Salafi perspective of Islam? Because many are confused about the distinction, about the separation between the Sunni perspective and the Salafi perspective. Maybe you would want to elaborate on what Salafi Islam is about and what is the difference between the Sunni perspective in general and the Salafi perspective.
That's a very complex question, Mr. Vatandas, and I'm sure that all these hundreds of years since the death of the Prophet up to today, even the landscape of ideological knowledge and analysis has been polluted. It's like a butterfly effect. Okay, you know, when the Prophet died, there was a struggle between the leadership struggle, and that led to later, unfortunately, the incident at Karbala, and also the succession, the definition between democratic election and lineage. So it is up to today. And so between this, we don't know how many generations of scholars have been trying to grapple with this idea. What actually do we want to set up? Is it a state? Is Islam ideological? Is Islam spiritual? Is Islam, from the point of view of the practice of the Sufi, is a very inner world kind of idea, or is it has to be an obligation to set up an Islamic state? So the question, back to your question, why do you think the scholars are not able to do this? Well, perhaps again, like I said, the pollution is a very whole range of confusion. When scholars spend a lot of time going to the minute detail of what constitutes an Islamic state, what is Salafism, and how do we bring this to the larger context of establishing Islamic state, then the entire cognitive experience and also the career is based on that. So, and in any crisis, for example, ideological crisis, there's a creation of the bipolarism of ideas. Oh, it's either you're a Salafi, you are for the Islamic state, or you are a liberal and for the secular state. And therefore, if you're liberal, you belong to the Western world, you belong to America, you belong to this and that, and therefore it is not. The whole idea is that we need to go back to the need to establish. So this dichotomy, did not give a space in the middle, as you know. But unfortunately, that to me, that is also quite a very generalized. We see countries that are really progressive, for example, the Arab Emirates, for example, send astronauts to space and women. Arab Emirates sends, and so many progressive countries, for example, Jordan, for example, or even Malaysia, to a large extent. Then there's always a tension. As long as there is we call the urge to continue to reinterpret practices and teachings, and to make knowledge alive, to make cognition, organic. Then is, after all, Islam is the first thing that the Muslim has to do is Iqra bismi rabbikal ladzi khalaq. Right? Read in the name of thy Lord who created thee. Read. So read has a very interesting symbolic, not just read and memorize. To me, read is to read, reflect, perhaps to reinterpret practices and reinterpret this as long as the core values there, and also to research on this. So, I look at the word Iqra, read, as more than that. So that I think makes right. And then one last thing, the metaphor. The Muslims pray, the head goes on the ground. So the humility, the highest stage, the highest part of the body is here. This is where cognition, brain science, neuroscience, neurolink, whatever we call it, is there. But why are we not, understanding this in psychological, sociological perspective in approaching ideologies and things?
Right.
Sorry, that's a long answer. Yeah.
So, Dr. Rahman, you're saying that Taliban interpretation of Islam refuses to reinterpret the sources of Islam. So they are trying to preserve, to keep the Islamic Islam as it is according to their perspective, and they do not want to reinterpret these sources. But on the other hand, the countries like United Arab Emirates, Tunisia, or Malaysia, the scholars in these countries accepted the idea to reinterpret the Islamic resources, and they have a better interpretation or application of Islam. So, but on the other hand, according to your own expertise and experience, how strong do you think that the Taliban interpretation of Islam linked to the Islamic resources? I mean, is there any connection between the Taliban Islam and the Islamic resources? How strong is that connection?
What do you mean when you say Islamic resources? You mean that the
Quran, the Hadith,
yes.
and
okay. So this is Mr. Vatandas. This is an epistemological question. For example, it's not new, right? The three sources of knowledge that human beings acquire. Number one is from religion. Number two is from culture. And in fact, four. Three is from scientific reasoning. Number four is from philosophy. So the theories of knowledge, suggest to us that how do human beings acquire this? If it's only totally through religion, and without any questioning, there's no philosophical basis, there's no philosophical inquiry method put into it, then it's going to be a problem, right? And also through science. For example, we saw this in the Islamic tradition. We saw this during the glorious glory of the days of the Baghdad civilization. Civilization. Harun al-Rashid. Science is in fact it was shaming Europe at the Dark Ages then, Renaissance. This idea of inquiry, critical inquiry, and creativity, or in Arabic words called ijtihad, the door to inquiry is closed, right? Why? Because again, it's over the centuries, power dominates, when knowledge is not flourish. When there is a lot of inner tension, using Freudian perspective, for example, today, as if the idea of the victory of the Taliban, which is being seen by many people in the Islamic world as, oh, there's a victory against secularism, victory against empire, victory against evil. Now, if this is seen as that, celebratory, then I think there is a psychological analysis that you can make, meaning that why is this romanticizing of the Islamic State happening? And what is the Islamic State? What is the end product? Is it the end product is that we have to achieve this because this is ultimate aim of humanity, that death is more important than living a life of thinking, feeling, and celebrating life itself and loving life? Which is more important? Now, this is what I think is a major, what I call the Talibanistic model of education, for lack of a better word today, that is opposed to, in America, it's one of the most famous education philosophers, John Dewey, who pioneered the progressivism and formed the basis of what we do in schools, for example, inquiry learning, respecting ideas. The knowledge that we get is boundless, that we acquire should be seen as boundless. And the knowledge that we get should be diverse, which be with integrity, ethics, and also we have to challenge ourselves, challenge knowledge itself. That is what the scientific process is about. But where is there? Where is there in this so-called countries that want to establish this and that state? In this case, Islamic State, and it goes also for other religions as well. So, so the lack of inquiry, yeah.
Okay, so historicism is another way to look at the resources of Islam. So how do you think that perspective of historicism accepted or recognized in the Muslim world, especially in the Sunni circles?
Okay. Well, number one, I think, I'm not sure that this is the whole idea answer the question, but I think we have to demystify the whole idea there is Islamic knowledge, there is Christian knowledge, there is Hindu knowledge. If we already label this, oh, this is sources, this come from Islam, this come this, and therefore this is only the thing that we're going to be engaging ourselves the whole life as scholars. But to us, knowledge is knowledge, ilmu, right?
Right.
All right. Ilmu in Islamic eschatological thinking, spiritual thinking, ilmu hayat, meaning, our existence is based on the whole idea that we are an organic being, that we acquire knowledge from the sense, perception, experience, and then it doesn't have any label. We look outside and say, oh, let me look at this tree and analyze it. Is it Islamic tree? Is it this? No. Is this a tree? Oh, there's an idea of Marxism. They say that the idea that the social class, is it Islamic? No, it's not Islamic, therefore we reject. So we keep on having these labels. Right. Then we are bound by this idea that, okay, now these guys are liberals. These guys are secular. Oh, these are the communists. These are socialists. Whereas, we read the Quran hermeneutically, as phenomenologically, and without emphasis on historicism or grounding it to the historical time and space bounded context, then we are going to have a problem respecting the way we think, right? Therefore, Muslims cannot read the Bhagavad Gita. Oh, Muslims are not allowed to visit the Bamyan temple in Bamyan statue in Afghanistan, for example. Oh, Muslims are not allowed to listen to music. I love rock music, Mr. Vatandas. I have a collection of hundreds of albums, and I play the guitar right up to today. So how could you say that? No, Muslims cannot play the guitar. It's the instruments of the devil. Okay, sorry. So I probably give some rock songs and then yes.
What do you think is the reason of some countries welcome the perspective, educational perspective of Taliban that they are proposing to the Muslim world? I know that some countries, some organizations, some schools in the Muslim world are welcoming the Taliban perspective of education, especially. Why do you think it is?
Okay, that's a very powerful question. One is, why some Muslims? Some means that those who already have set their mind to thinking that our goal is to set up an Islamic State. For example, in Malaysia, some very radical Islamic party, or some NGOs, or even Muslim lawyers group that wants to establish push the further implementation of the Sharia law, for example. Those are given, a group of people who will celebrate this. One, because it is seen as a celebration of the victory against evil. The mythical coming of the Al-Mahdi, the Ya'juj kind of idea, and then the coming of Al-Mahdi, and in the sense that Islamic State, the emergence of the Islamic State, without answering the question, who created the ISIS anyway? That right. itself is symbolizes the victory. Imagine this, right? The name of the Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Why? This is very interesting. Imam Khalifa Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr was the first Khalifa. Al-Baghdadi, Baghdad from Iraq, and Baghdad is semiotics, a symbolism of civilization back to the glory. So we are playing with semiotics here on a global scale, and it's easy to convert the people who do not have enough knowledge of things, let alone ability to analyze history, political economy, and things like that. So it is a romanticizing of the whole idea. In the end, you self-censor yourself and everything. You can't undo this. You want to undo this. Oh, anything that's got to do with Western education, so it's liberal education, therefore we have to go and do jihad against liberal education. That's what Boko Haram is about, right?
Right. And a few days ago, remember that ISIS attacked the Kabul airports, and it is because of the very reason that they think that they represent the real Islam. They represent the caliphate, and they believe that there shouldn't be two different caliphs in the Muslim world. And this is why many people believe that they attacked Kabul airports, which is right now under the control of Taliban.
Right. It's a cultural, it's a cultural geopolitical phenomena. Who claims to be, for example, the ideology, Sunni, Shia, whether these are artificial constructs that has been accepted as the reality of things, or whether it is a creation and has gone like a Frankenstein haywire that divides and things like that. And this happens also in many, even in Christianity, right? Protestantism, the schisms in the Catholics during the Reformation period. And I think it's nothing new with places such as Afghanistan has gone through so many hundreds of war since the beginning of time. It's a tribalistic, maybe perhaps a tribalistic interpretation of what Islam is ideologically. I have to put right. What ideologically, because religion simply means that making connections with the larger forces outside of us, religio from the Latin.
Right.
But what is it now is it's become a theocratic, the idea that God decides what kind of government. Right. So we have a problem here.
Do you think that the Muslim might have misunderstood the concept of caliphates? And do you think that the understanding of caliphate was overstated during the time? And do you think that it maybe was not the most important institution in Islam?
I think we have to go to management theory of today. Maybe that's caliphate simply means that, or Amirul Mu'mineen, the leader of the Muslim world, for example. So how do we look at the leadership? Whether the leadership is like the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who monopolized and guardians of the word of ayat, the Allah, and there's no democratic participation, and it worked fine for some population. Or whether we're going to look at it as democratic participation in which this and that. And going back and forth, for example, the whole idea of Khalifa, right? Khalifatullah, for example, I look at things as and again, from a very personal perspective, that each one of us has have a kingdom to govern, essentially. We exist, we are given knowledge, ilmu, hayat, we are listening. I mean, we have eyes and ears, sama, basar, and then the word kalam, so these are the things that we have to govern ourselves without saying that, oh, this is all Muslims, oh, this is I'm Muslim, therefore, no. It's a very inner spiritual realm that you govern, and you walk outside of yourself, this world, and you live. And it's up to people to judge whether you're a good, this Christian, Muslim, Hindu by your action. But should there be a central figure governing everything, right up to the daily practice, everything? Oh, women cannot go to work. Women cannot be on the streets today in Afghanistan because the militaries are not equipped to protect women. Oh, girls should not go to school the next 10 years because we're not trying to protect girls. Does Islam teach this? Any religion teach this, right? So the whole idea of Caliphate is transformational leadership from within, decentralized leadership with yourself, or whether you need in this modern world, you need a central authority, theocratic or totalitarian or Stalinistic, or the Emperor of Japan, right, Tokugawa period, or Kublai Khan, or Genghis Khan, and the rest follow, right? So what is the whole concept of caliphate? So this the last my conclusion is to this question is this: how do we semiotically and philosophically question ourselves? What do words mean? What do this mean? This is what in the very strict religious education in Islam, don't want people to do, to question. Okay, what does Iqra mean? Does it mean only read and follow? Then I ask the question: what does it mean? Read, follow, research, recite, review, or reflect or reconstruct, whatever. So you can't pass the Socratic level questioning because it's not. This is it will destroy the paradigm.
Dr. Rahman, thank you so much for joining us. Today, I had a remarkable guest. I had Dr. Rahman, Dr. Azly Rahman, as a guest speaker. And please do not forget to join and subscribe Politurco in YouTube. Thank you so much.
Yes, I want to say this. Thank you so much for having me, and I shared this view again. Whatever that I say in this is of course in the spirit of inquiry. It's up to people to think of it in a diverse perspective, right? But I want to want to say that this is a wonderful forum. Politurco is a place which you can understand and understand issues, and encourage you to be engaging in this. And there's a lot of things, articles, columns. Thank you, Mr. Vatandas.
Thank you so much.
Guest.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rahman.
Thank you.